All right, we're going to now focus on depreciation. And what depreciation is when you buy an asset, a piece of equipment or whatever, it does not retain its purchase value. It depreciates over time. So if you buy a brand new vehicle, they always say, you drive off the lot and you lose 3 to 5,000 right off the bat. Right when you drive off the lot, if you tried to resell it, you couldn't sell it for what you bought it for. We call that depreciation. Well, in accounting, in a business, you have to depreciate your assets because they do not remain at the value with which you bought them. And so there's various ways of depreciating these on your books to properly reflect what we call their book value, the value that they have for inventory and so or for their value. So that way your assets, they're slowly depreciating. Certain assets are slowly depreciating, and over time they become worth a little bit less, and then you can sell them at the end and get a little bit of money back. So what we call that is depreciation. There's a bunch of different methods for doing this as well. There's a lot of methods, but I only focus on the top 3 or 4, which is straight line depreciation, sum of the years depreciation. The other one is there's another one that's accelerated depreciation, and then there's the units of production depreciation. And they're all a little bit different, but they're all not difficult to calculate. And so the first one is straight line depreciation. This is the most simple and probably the most common. And there's steps you need to take. First, you need to determine the total cost and salvage value of the asset. Second, you subtract the salvage value from the total cost to find the total amount of depreciation. And then you calculate the amount of depreciation by dividing the total depreciation by the useful life of the asset. What do they expect it? How long do they expect it to last in years? Is it going to be a piece of equipment that's only going to last a year? Is it going to be a piece of equipment that lasts 15 years? So that's what you need to do to determine depreciation. In some ways, it's a little bit of a guess. And a lot of times it doesn't really matter, because as long as you depreciate it off your books, you're doing well. If you don't, then your assets are showing higher than they should be, and that's going to make it falsified and not be honest. So, and then of course, step 4 is you set up a depreciation schedule in the form of a chart with the following headings. So end of year, annual depreciation, accumulated depreciation, and then book value. And that's what the item is worth at the end of each year. The book value is what it's saying in your books or in your balance sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this. Let's see, 17.1. So here's the first one that we'll look at. Wildflower Bakery purchased a new bread oven for $125,000. Shipping charges were $1,150. The installation amounted to $750. And the oven is expected to last 5 years. So, and has a trade-in value or salvage value, that's the same thing, of $5,000. If Wildflower elects to use the straight line method, calculate the total cost, total depreciation, and annual depreciation of the oven, and then prepare a chart down here. So the first thing we need to do, step number 1 from the page prior, I can't go back, was determine the total cost and salvage value of the asset. Okay, so the total cost, well, we already know it was $125,000, but also cost us $1,150 to ship it, and then another $750 to deliver it. I guess what was that $750 for? Installation, to install it. So we're going to add all those up, and that comes out to $126,900. And then step 2 is to figure out the depreciation. So I'm going to minus that 5,000 from this. So that means it's going to have a total depreciation of 121,900. Okay. And then step 3 is to figure out how much annually is that going to happen. So if my total depreciation is 121,900 and they expect it to last 5 years, I divide that by 5. And that's going to give me an annual depreciation of 24,380 per year for 5 years. So if I prepare a depreciation schedule, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by putting in the total cost here, because what it's going to show me down here at the very bottom is my salvage value. And then I'm going to say my annual depreciation is 24,380 for year 1. My accumulated depreciation is just going to be that because it's still year 1. And I'm going to subtract that from my book value. So that's going to give me 102,520. So that's my book value at the end of year one, 102,000 for that $126,900 asset I bought. Year two, another 24,380 is going to be depreciated. So now my cumulative depreciation is double that, 48,760. And I'm going to deduct again another 24,000 from it. So now it's 78,140 is now my year two book value. In year three, this was a 5-year asset, another 24,380. And that's going to give me accumulated depreciation of 73,140. I'm going to deduct the 24,380 from the 78, gives me 53,760. That's year three book value. Year four, another 24,380, because that's how much it's going to depreciate each year. The accumulated depreciation is now 97,520 because I added that to that, and then I subtracted this one here from this, and that's going to give me 29,380 for year four book value. And then my year five, my last year, another 24,380. That's going to give me 121,900, and that's going to leave me 5,000. And that is my salvage value. So I know I got it right when my salvage value equals 5,000. Now, just so you know, though, sometimes the last year when you're doing these isn't quite the full amount of depreciation. In that case, it only depreciates up to the salvage value. It never is going to be lower than the salvage value. So if the salvage value is 5,000 and this amount here was actually less, it was going to make this like 3,500, it still would be 5,000, and you just depreciate less that third or fifth year in this case. So anyway, that's how you do it. That's how you do a depreciation schedule based off of doing the straight line depreciation method. So that's the most simple way to do it. We'll go on the next page and we'll calculate a few of these other ones just to figure out the depreciation for each one of these different assets. So hold on a second. I think it's right here. All right. So here we have a an item that cost $45,000. The shipping charges were $150. The setup charges were $5,000. The total cost came out to $45,650. This one's already done for us. The salvage value was $3,500. It's expected to last for 10 years. So that came out to 40. After I subtracted the salvage value from the total cost, it came out to 42,150. I divided the 42,150 by 10 years. That gave me an annual depreciation of 4215. Every year it's going to depreciate. So if I do the next one, 886, 625, and 2,500, if I add all that together, it comes out to 91,725. If I subtract the 9,000 salvage value, it comes out to 82,725 and 10 cents. And then if I divide that by 7, because that's how many years, it's going to come out to $11,817.57 every year that it depreciates. And then the last one, 158,000, there's 0 shipping charges, but there's an $1,800 setup charge. So that comes out to now 160,000 total cost. Minus the salvage value means my total depreciation is going to be 140,000. I divide that by the 5, that comes out to 28,000 each time it depreciates each year out of the 5 years. So that is how you do the straight line depreciation. Again, I just added everything up. I minus the salvage value to find the total depreciation, and then I divided the total depreciation by the number of years of useful life, and that gave me my annual depreciation. So all right, so that is the one method, straight line depreciation. Then there's sum of the years depreciation, or the sum of the digits. And this one is pretty easy to figure out. If you look here at the example I give, you use this fraction formula. So years of useful life remaining, and then sum of the digits of the useful life. So sum of the digits is nothing more than exactly what it's saying, sum of the digits. So if it's a 4-year term, I would add up the digits, 4, 3, 2, 1. That gives me 10. And then I would take each of the years and I would divide it by the 10, like that. Or if we look at the 5 years, here's 5 years, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, comes out to 15. So it would be 5, 15, 4, 15, 3, 15, 2, 15, 1, 15. So that's kind of how it would spell out. And so how I would do this then is I would have to make a depreciation schedule the same way. So here's a truck that costs $35,000. There's a $5,000 residual on it. So that means that it's a $30,000 total of depreciation of $30,000. So that's what I'm going to be shooting for at the end of the day. So if I made a schedule, the schedule, I'm just going to draw it right here. So I'm going to take my full amount, my complete 35,000, because I'm going to be left remaining with the 5,000 down here. And then what you do in this case is you do year one, and you take the 30,000 total depreciation, because that's what it is, and you multiply it by first 515, because it's 5-year loan, right? So we did sum of the years. Remember, we did it here. So it's 515, and that's going to equal $10,000 worth of depreciation for year number one. So that accumulated depreciation would be 10,000, and I would subtract that from that. So now this is 25,000. For year two, I would take the same 30,000 again, multiply it this time by 4/15, because it's for the year four, and it would come out to $8,000, or a total depreciation of 18,000. I would subtract the 8,000 from the 25,000, and that would give me 17,000. Year three, 30,000 again. This time times 3/15 equals 6,000 total depreciation. If I add that to accumulated depreciation, that comes out to 24,000. And if I subtract the 6,000 from the 17,000, that comes to 11,000. And then I do year four. Again, 30,000 times 2/15 equals 4,000. That comes out to 28,000 total depreciation. I minus the 4,000 from the 11,000. That gives me 7,000. And then I do year five, 30,000 times 1/15 equals 2,000. And that gives me 30,000 here. And that gives me 5,000 here, which is my salvage value. So I just did a sum of the years or sum of the digits method. And just remember, you add up the digits and the total becomes your denominator for each one of the digits. So that's why they call it sum of the years. So that's another way of depreciating it. It's a little different. And I don't know if I could say that that one gives you a higher or lower level of depreciation. Seems like it goes pretty quick, but there's an even faster way that we'll look at next. But that is sum of the years depreciation. So make sure you follow that guideline for that. Let's see, 17.3. All right, so here we have another problem using sum of the years. So it's the same thing. This one's 21 though, so we're going to do basically it's going to be broken down like 6, 21, 5, 21, 4, 21, 3, 21, 2, 21, 1, 21. I got these way off. But we need to figure out the total depreciation. So again, it's 44,500. That'll be the total amount, but I have to deduct the residual value, so it's going to be 42,000. Oh, crud. All right, hold on. I can move my page. Oh, I'll start over. That's why I don't like the iPad. I'm getting something new to do this with. Where is it? Right here. All right. So again, we said, we'll just up here, 44,500 minus salvage value comes out to 42,000. So that's my depreciation every year. And then the sum of the years is 21. So again, it's going to be 6, 21, 5, 21, 4, 21, 3, 21, 2, 21, 1, 21, and it's going to be 42,000 on each one. Then we start with the 44,500. So that way, when we get to the end down here, we'll have 2,500 left. So again, we're just going to multiply all of these to get the salvage value for each year. And when I did it, I just put the values in so that way I don't have to. So this came out to 12,000. This came out to 10,000. This came out to 8,000. Is that the same one I just did? Yeah, this came out to 6,000. This came out to 4,000. This came out to 2,000. And if you do the math on all these, 32,5, 22,5, 145, or 114,5, 85, 45, and then 25 at the end. So that was how it all broke down once I deducted each of these from the total. So that's some of the years. All right, the next one is declining balance. So declining balance is you basically use this formula, and it's basically the declining balance rate equals 1 divided by the useful life times the multiple. So in this case, your useful life is 4 years, and your multiple is 150. So we would take 1 divided by the useful life times 150, or 1.5, 150%. You have to convert it. You have to convert it to a decimal first. Equals 0.375. So this is now your declining balance rate, 0.375. All you do is basically use the formula to create the rate, and then I'll show you how to use the rate. Just remember 0.375. And then we go to, I believe, here. Let's see, what's this one? That's straight line. Hold on. That's units of production. Maybe I missed one. Let's try it again here. Okay, here we go. This is it. So this is the straight line depreciation. We said it was 0.375, right? That was the amount. So again, what we would do here, and we said the asset was, we didn't write it down, but I'll tell you what it is. It's 386,000 was the total book value. And what we're going to do here, and it says a total trade-in value of 70,000, so that's going to be our residual at the end of this. And then, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the beginning book value, so we're going to take the 386,000, and we're going to multiply by 0.375, and that's going to give us our depreciation for that first year. And that comes out to 144,750, and that's going to be subtracted from that. So that gives us now 241,250. That now becomes our new book value for year number 2. So 241,250 times 0.375, the same factor, equals $90,468.75. That's the new amount of depreciation for year number 2. I got to subtract that from the 241. That comes out to 150,781.25. That becomes my new book value for year number 3. And I multiply that by 0.375. That gives me a depreciation for year number 3 of $56,542.97, which gives me now a $94,238.28 new book value. Now year 4, I use that 94,238.28 times 0.375, the factor, now gives me 24,238.28. And by the way, that's going to be exactly leave me then the 70,000 if I deduct that from that. And there's my salvage value of 70,000. So that is what we call the declining balance rate. And it's a little faster. There's actually one called double declining balance rate, and that's where you can go even faster. But we depreciated that asset pretty quickly in 4 years by doing that. All right, and then that leads us then to the final one here, which is what we call the units of production. So rather than dividing it by the years, what we're going to do is we're going to do units of useful life. So we're going to figure out what does it cost per unit to depreciate it, and then we're gonna figure it out. So it's usually, this kind of depreciation is usually used for vehicles because every mile you drive it, it depreciates, or every hour that you use it, something, it depreciates. So let's just say you buy something, but you never use it. So should it depreciate really fast if you hardly ever use it? No. So this is where the units of production comes in. It depends on how much you use it. You might use it a lot in one year and have a lot of depreciation, but then not use it hardly at all the next year and have a little bit. So it just depends on how much you actually use it. That's what we call units of production. So for instance, this problem, we'll just look at it right here. It says that this limousine service purchased a limousine with an expected useful life of 75,000 miles. The limousine costs $54,500 and it has a residual value of 7,500. If the limousine is driven the following number of miles per year, prepare a depreciation schedule by using the units of production method. After finding the depreciation per mile, round this amount to the 3 decimal points. Well, first thing we need to do is find out what is it going to depreciate per mile, right? So we're saying that they're saying 75,000 miles is what they're going to get out of it, right? And then they said it cost them 54,500 to buy it. All right, so if we bought it for that much, we need to deduct the residual. So we need to deduct that. And then we need to divide that answer by the 75,000 miles. So the total cost divided by each mile that we think it's going to survive. So if I take that and I multiply it, it comes out to 62,666, or we can just say 60, oops, sorry. We could just say 62.627. So that's our factor. Now, by the way, I actually prefer that you don't round it when you're doing it. So you might want to just keep it as 62.62666 either way. So now all we need to do then is decide how to multiply it. So we're going to basically take 0.6226, 0.62666, 0.62666. That's how much every mile is worth. And then we just multiply by the miles. So if I drove 12,500 miles in year 1 and every mile is 62 cents, basically is what it is, it's going to come out to a total of $7,837.50 of depreciation. If in year 2 I drove at 18,300 miles, that's going to come out to a depreciation of $11,474.10. If I drove at 15,900 in year 3, same depreciation rate, $9,969.30 depreciation. In year 4, I drive at 19,100 miles. That's another $11,975.70 of depreciation. And then in year 5, I drove at 12,400 miles. That was almost the least. That's going to be $5,743.40. Actually, it's going to be less than that because it's less than the actual amount that this would be, because we have to have $7,500 left when we do the math. So again, if I had the math here, 54,600. After the first year, it would be 46,662. After year 3, it would be 35,188. We're depreciating the asset. Year 5 would be 25,219. Year, I can't see it because I ran out of room, would be 13,243, and then the last year would be 7,500. So all I did was figure out the average cost per mile of depreciation. All right, so this last page then just does all 3 methods one after another so that you can get an idea of how to do them all again. So we're not going to do a depreciation schedule, at least the whole thing. So this one says use the straight line method. So again, we have 57,000. It cost us also $470 and another $500 to install it and to deliver it. So our total amount was what is it? 57,970. And then I'm going to minus the residual off of that, 2,000. So that's going to give me a total depreciation of 55,970. And then I'm going to divide that by 5 years. And that's going to give me a $11,194 a year depreciation. And so that I would just make a schedule, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, and each time I would depreciate at 11,194, 11,194, 11,194, all the way down to where I would have at the end 2,000 residual value. So that's straight line depreciation. And then units of production, what's this one? The product line, this is sum of the years. Okay, so it's 6 years. So remember, 6 years is going to be 21. So it's going to be 621, 521, 421, 321, 221, 121. And the amount is trade-in value is $445,000 with a minus the trade-in value of 25,000. So that's going to be 420,000. So we're going to multiply 420,000 by each of these. And each time I do the math on that, it's going to give me the depreciation, total depreciation for each year. And that would be deducted off the 445,000 all the way down. I'm not going to do the schedule again, but basically you would start there and then you would deduct the answer here from that, the answer here from the new total, the answer here from the new total. And then the last one is the useful life. So what would be the useful life? So a U-Haul franchise bought new trucks for 180,000. Expected to have an 8-year useful life and a trade-in value of 35,000. So we're going to say 35,000. Oh, they want me to do the double declining balance on this one. Okay. All right, so double declining balance on this one would be, I would take the 1 divided by 8, and then it's by 150 times 1.50. And that would give me 0.875. That would be my factor. So again, I have to do 8 years. I'm not going to do it, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I would multiply the, in this case, it's going to be 180 minus 35,000. So what is that going to, oh no, it's actually going to be the 180,000. So we figured out that 1.875. Let's write that in. 0.1875, 0.1875. It's going to be the same for each one. And then we had 180,000. So the first one's going to be 180,000. Whatever that comes out to, that's your depreciation for year 1. And then you minus that from here, and then your new book value goes here. And then you do the math again. Depreciation year 2, you'd subtract it, you get a new book value. I'm not going to do it for the sake of time, but all the way down, and what you should have at the end down here, sorry, is your 35,000. All right. That's pretty much it for this chapter. These chapters. Let me know if you guys have any questions